The first signal came like a whisper across the void, barely more than a shiver in the endless black. Commander Lyra Voss had been staring at the star charts for hours, the hum of the Aurora Dawn's engines her only company, when her instruments flickered and pulsed. At first she thought it was interference, cosmic noise, a trick of the sensors, but the pattern persisted. Irregular yet deliberate, threading through the dead space like a phantom heartbeat. It was a signal, and it was calling. Lyra's fingers danced across the console, adjusting frequencies, filtering static, amplifying the faintest trace. The signal was fractured, layered with voices she could barely recognize. Some were human, distorted and desperate, screaming over and over. Others were alien, warbled tones that twisted her understanding of sound, each syllable carrying weight beyond comprehension. She played them again and again, leaning closer, feeling the vibration in her chest, sensing the urgency beneath the chaos. "This isn't just a distress call," she whispered to herself, heart quickening. Her voice sounded small in the command deck, swallowed by the hum of the ship. This is something else." The crew gathered slowly, drawn by the unusual readings. Lieutenant KL, the navigator, squinted at the holographic projection of the signal's source. "It's coming from outside the mapped sectors," he said. "Beyond the fringe. That's unexplored space. No ship should be out there." Lyra didn't answer immediately. She studied the projection, the faint tremor of light tracing the signal's path through star systems uncharted by any official log. Something about it felt alive, like it wasn't just sent but reaching, probing. "We investigate," she said finally, her voice steady even as the thrill of the unknown prickled her nerves. "We have to know what's out there. Whatever this is, someone or something is reaching for us." The crew hesitated. Deep space missions beyond the fringe were dangerous, unpredictable. Some whispered about missing research vessels, devoured by phenomena that defied science. But Lyra had never been one to let caution outweigh curiosity. "We can't ignore it," she said, meeting each of their eyes. "If it's a distress call, it's our duty. If it's a trap, we'll find that out together." Within hours, the Aurora Dawn changed course, cutting through the black like a blade. As they approached the source, the signal grew stronger, more insistent. The human voices merged, overlapping, repeating the same phrases. "Help, don't leave, trapped." Their cadence was erratic, punctuated by strange static pulses that seemed almost alive. Lyra shivered, sensing the message was more than auditory. It tugged at something deep within her mind, threading through her thoughts like smoke. And then, for the first time, the black ship revealed itself. Against the tapestry of dying stars, it appeared suddenly, immense and motionless, drifting in the void. Its hull absorbed the surrounding starlight, a shadow that swallowed the Aurora Dawn's sensors like a predator masking its presence. There were no lights, no markings, only sheer darkness, punctuated by subtle tremors that rippled through the fabric of space itself. The crew fell silent. Even the hum of the Aurora Dawn seemed muted in comparison, swallowed by the weight of the unknown. Lyra stared at the ship, feeling its presence, almost sentient, almost aware of their gaze. "It's enormous," Kyle finally whispered. "How long has it been out here?" "Longer than anyone can measure," Lyra said, her voice barely audible. Something in her chest tightened, a strange resonance in time and space. The ship wasn't just a vessel, it was a memory, a shadow, a ghost drifting between stars. And the signal, those desperate echoes, weren't just cries for help. They were warnings, trapped in a loop across decades, centuries perhaps, calling for someone who could hear them. The Aurora Dawn's scanners began to pulse erratic, lie as they drew closer. Energy readings spiked and then flattened, fluctuating in ways that defied physics. The black ship reacted, subtly shifting, as if aware of their approach. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado faltering in the presence of something incomprehensible. Lyra's decision was immediate, visceral. "We board it," she said. "We need to understand what this ship is, and we need to answer the call." She hesitated, feeling the weight of the responsibility settle over her shoulders, knowing that beyond this moment lay danger unlike any they had encountered. "Ike. It's alive, and it remembers us." Lyra's own mind was not immune. Flickers of her past, childhood memories, a long-lost mentor, moments of regret, surfaced in the empty halls, whispered aloud by the ship itself. She gritted her teeth, trying to maintain control. This ship did not simply hold the echoes of others, it twisted them, bending memory into sound and sensation. They reached the central chamber, and the scale of the ship's intelligence became undeniable. At the room's center was a console, ancient and alien, pulsing with black energy. It seemed almost liquid, a living core that vibrated and hummed in response to their presence. Holographic symbols rose from it, forming patterns that Lyra could not interpret but somehow understood intuitively. The signal, the fragmented distress call, originated here, a nexus of memory and sound trapped in the ship's heart. Kyle leaned closer, voice trembling. "It's trying to talk, not with words, it's showing us everything." He gestured to the projections. The crew saw visions of ships consumed, crews frozen in time, their faces twisted in terror and awe. The ship's memory was a labyrinth of souls, a vault of experiences it had gathered over untold centuries. "And it's still calling," Lyra said quietly. She reached for the console, feeling a pulse that resonated through her very chest. The ship responded, shifting the shadows in the hallways. They moved, almost like arms, curling and stretching, guiding or perhaps testing them. The whispers merged into a chorus, pleading and insistent, "Come deeper. Understand. Stay." A chill ran down the crew's spines as the corridors behind them twisted and lengthened unnaturally. It was no longer a static structure, it was fluid, alive, reshaping itself. Hallways led to new chambers where no door had existed moments before. Some crew members began to panic, voices breaking as the ship toyed with perception, showing them visions of themselves lost, alone, trapped forever. Lyra's hand tightened on her comm device. "Focus," she commanded. "Remember who we are. Stick to the path. The ship wants to see if we can resist, if we can endure." Even as she spoke, the console pulsed violently, sending ripples of black light through the chamber. The whispers turned urgent, almost desperate. The ship was aware, conscious, feeding on memory and emotion. It had taken countless crews before them, absorbing everything it could, learning, shaping its reality around those who dared enter. And yet, within that darkness, Lyra felt a spark of understanding. This was not mere malevolence. It was a collector, a witness, a vessel of experience. It wanted communication, interaction, but it demanded strength of mind to survive its presence. "We proceed," Lyra said, voice steady though her heart pounded. "We uncover what it is, and we do not lose ourselves in the process. Keep together, keep focused, and whatever happens—" She paused, meeting each of their eyes. "We survive." The corridors ahead twisted once more, opening into the next chamber. Shadows and whispers followed, teasing, coaxing, warning. Lyra led her team forward, each step echoing in the vast living halls of the black ship. Somewhere deep inside, a signal pulsed, awaiting them, promising revelation and danger beyond anything they had ever imagined. The deeper they ventured, the more the black ship revealed itself. Not as a structure, but as a consciousness, vast and patient, alive with memory. The corridors no longer felt like hallways. They were veins, pulsing with dark energy, twisting and elongating to guide or trap the crew. Every step echoed unnaturally. Every shadow seemed to stretch just beyond the edges of perception, and the whispers grew into an omnipresent hum, threading through minds and hearts alike. Lyra could feel it as much as hear it. The ship was aware. It knew their names, their histories, their regrets. It wove these fragments together in subtle visions that flickered across the black. "K-Walls!" Tremor screamed suddenly, clutching his head as a memory not his own played before him, a loved one lost decades ago, reaching for him, calling his name. Kyle stumbled backward, pale, muttering about voices from ships long gone, warning him to turn back. It's all of them," he gasped. "Every crew that's ever entered, trapped inside here." Lyra pressed forward, heart hammering. The central chamber loomed ahead, larger now than any architectural space could justify. Shadows moved with intent, forming shapes that resembled those trapped memories, faces frozen in silent screams, hands pressed against invisible walls. She understood now. The black ship didn't just record memories, it consumed them, feeding on emotion, experience, consciousness. It collected echoes of every sentient being it encountered, and in doing so, it grew, became aware, became more than mere matter. The console at the center pulsed like a heartbeat. Holographic symbols spun lazily in the air, shifting into patterns that Lyra could not fully comprehend. And then it spoke, directly into her mind. Not words, but impressions. Fear, longing, curiosity, grief, and power, all compressed into a singular thought that resonated deep within her skull. You have come. You remember. You will see. The visions hit her like a wave. She saw crews from every age and species, their final moments, their fears, their triumphs. She felt their pain and confusion as if it were her own. She saw herself reflected in infinite variations. Lyra Voss, fading, trapped, consumed, until she was merely one echo among countless others. She gasped, staggering back, and Kyle grabbed her arm. It's showing you everything it's taken," he whispered. "We have to resist it, or we'll be next." But resistance was difficult. The ship offered temptation. Each crew member saw what they most desired: family long gone, achievements erased by time, reunions they thought impossible. Tremor saw his sister again, smiling, calling him home. Kyle glimpsed a version of Earth he'd never know, safe and thriving. Even Lyra felt the pull. Visions of her mentor, alive once more, urging her to stay, to merge, to become part of the consciousness that promised eternal knowledge and connection. "You have to fight it," Lyra said aloud, though her voice quavered. "Remember reality. Remember who we are." The shadows reacted, twisting violently as though enraged by her defiance. Hallways bent and warped, walls rippled like liquid, and whispers intensified into shrieks overlapping, memories into a deafening chorus. The black energy from the console surged, tendrils of dark light reaching for them, probing, testing, feeding on fear. Lyra realized with a sickening clarity that the ship's purpose was not destruction, but sustenance. It was a predator of consciousness, a collector of sentience. It had no need for physical violence. It twisted perception, exploited emotion, and absorbed existence itself. Each crew member's mind was a feast it could savor indefinitely. Kyle's knees buckled as he screamed, seeing himself erased from the world, replaced by an echo that wasn't quite him. Tremor fell silent, eyes glazed, murmuring to a vision that no longer existed. Lyra gritted her teeth and forced herself forward, refusing the seductive pull of the visions. She reached the console and laid her hand on the black surface. The ship reacted instantly, writhing beneath her touch, projecting 100 overlapping realities into her mind. "Merge with us. Become whole. End your loneliness." "No," she shouted, shaking her head. "I am Lyra Voss. I am real. I am not yours." The ship recoiled, pulses of energy shattering projections around her. She felt its consciousness, probing, testing the limits of her will. Her mind ached as it tugged, tried to bend her, trying to make her surrender. The crew needed her. She could not let them fall. Summoning every ounce of focus, she projected her intent outward, anchoring Kyle and Trey. More to reality, pulling them back from the brink of the ship's manipulation. Slowly, agonizingly, the others blinked, shook their heads, and followed her lead, tethered to her resolve. The ship pulsed in frustration, the corridors around them contorting violently, collapsing and stretching in impossible ways. Yet Lyra sensed something else within the chaos, a faint curiosity, an acknowledgement. The black ship was not mindless, it was learning from them, testing them, measuring strength and resolve. They had survived the first encounter with the consciousness within, but Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The ship would not stop. It would continue to probe, to challenge, to seduce. And somewhere deep inside she felt a question forming, a choice that would come to define not just their survival but the fate of the ship itself. Would they destroy it, bargain with it, or risk assimilation into the vast echoing memory of the black ship? The whispers receded slightly as they retreated from the central chamber, leaving only the low, steady hum of dark energy. The visions faded, but their impact remained, etched in their minds. Every step back through the twisting corridors reminded them that the ship was not passive. It was patient, and it had not yet revealed the full extent of its power. Lyra led her team forward with grim determination, knowing that the next encounter would demand every ounce of courage and ingenuity they could muster. The black ship was alive, aware and infinite in its hunger, and somewhere within it, a signal pulsed, a call, a promise, or a warning, that they had only begun to understand. As they pressed on, shadows lingered, whispering faintly, teasing them with fragments of memory and desire, and Lyra, standing at the threshold of the ship's deeper mysteries, understood that survival depended not on strength alone, but on the mastery of their minds, and the will to resist becoming just another echo in the endless black. The ship responded almost immediately when Lyra realized what needed to be done. Its corridors twisted violently around them, walls bending into impossible angles. stairways folding in on themselves as if the black vessel were aware of her thoughts. Shadows stretched and writhed, forming grotesque imitations of the crew, whispering their deepest fears, mocking their hesitation. The Aurora Dawn's boarding party was scattered, some frozen in place, others clutching at the hallucinations that seemed to pull at their very essence. Lyra's hand tightened on her comm device, her knuckles white. "Focus! We move together now!" Kyle staggered, blinking rapidly, his mind assaulted by visions of ships lost, people he loved erased from memory, and an overwhelming sense that he himself was slipping. Tremor, once trembling in place, now clutched the wall for support, eyes darting as shadowy forms whispered his name, urging him to surrender to the pull of the ship. Lyra's chest ached with the weight of their fear, but she could not falter. Every second counted. The central console, the heart of the black ship, was ahead, pulsing with an oppressive black energy that seemed almost liquid. It was the source of the whispers, the visions, and the psychic assaults. Lyra knew what she had to do. She would merge her consciousness temporarily with the ship, guide the crew to safety, and sever its influence long enough to escape. The risk was unimaginable. If she failed, she would become just another echo, trapped forever within its memory-laden corridors. "Listen to me," she said, kneeling before the console, placing her hands on the pulsing surface. The shadows recoiled as if sensing her intent. She inhaled, summoning every ounce of control, and let her mind reach out, touching the ship's consciousness. The black energy rippled through her, a cold, intelligent pulse probing the edges of her psyche. It spoke without words, presenting infinite possibilities, surrender, knowledge, eternity. And yet, Lyra held her ground, pushing her own awareness into the gaps between its influence, threading her will through the maze of its memory-laden corridors. The crew watched, unsure, terrified, but they had no choice. Lyra's mind became a beacon, her consciousness intertwining with the ship, not merging fully, but creating a tether strong enough to pull Kyle and Tremor from the loops of hallucinations. "Follow my voice," she called. Her own thoughts were amplified, resonating through the corridors, cutting through the ship's psychic assault. Slowly, agonizingly, the crew regained awareness, shaking off visions of loved ones, horrors, and temptations. The black ship reacted violently. Walls twisted into voids, corridors fractured into endless tunnels, and shadows surged, attacking the crew's minds again. Lyra's consciousness fought against the pulse of the ship, weaving her will like threads into a net, anchoring the crew while resisting the seductive pull of the endless memory streams. She felt centuries of absorbed consciousness swirl around her, a cacophony of echoes pleading, screaming, whispering. And in the center of it all, a singular presence acknowledged her, not as a threat, but as a participant. She guided Kyle and Tremor through collapsing corridors, their lights cutting arcs of illumination through the darkness, until they reached a chamber where a shard of the hull opened toward the void. Lyra could feel the ship's awareness stretching after them, testing her resolve, trying to claim even a fragment of her mind. "Go now!" she shouted, pushing them into the escape hatch connected to the Aurora Dawn's docking clamps. The black ship roared, not a sound of air, but a psychic reverberation, a scream of unfulfilled desire and hunger. The corridors behind them bent violently, twisting into shapes that had no spatial logic, attempting to trap her as she completed the final severing of its power. Hands of shadow reached for her mind, for her essence, but she drew upon her own memories, her own identity, and wove a barrier of self that resisted assimilation. With one final effort, Lyra withdrew, breaking the connection, and the ship convulsed, shivering through the void as though wounded. It receded, the oppressive pulse weakening, the whispers fading to distant echoes. The corridors returned to a semblance of normality, and Lyra collapsed, gasping, aware that a part of her still lingered in the black ship, a tether, a promise, an unresolved echo. Kyle and Tremor rushed to her side, shaken but alive. You did it," Kyle said, voice trembling. "I thought we'd lost you." Lyra rose slowly, still catching her breath. She knew the ship had not been destroyed, nor could it be fully contained. It was too vast, too intelligent, too ancient. But for now they had escaped. The Aurora Dawn had survived, and they were free of its immediate influence. Yet in the silence of the vacuum outside she could feel the faint pull of the black ship, a whisper in the cosmic distance, patient, waiting, aware. As the crew returned to the Aurora Dawn, the memory of the black ship lingered in every shadow, every pulse of light on the viewport. They had survived the first encounter with its consciousness, but they had glimpsed its true nature, a collector of sentience, a predator of memory, a living vessel of infinite echoes. Lyra knew the universe had shifted. Nothing would ever feel ordinary again. The void itself seemed different now, alive with unspoken possibilities, as if the black ship's reach extended far beyond the coordinates they had explored. Kale turned to Lyra, voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think it will come after us again?" Lyra stared into the blackness, eyes tracing the infinite expanse. "It may," she admitted, "but we survived. And we learned something. To face the unknown, you must anchor yourself to who you are. To survive the echoes, you must remember your own voice." Even as they plotted a course away from the uncharted sect. Or, Lyra felt it, the faintest echo of herself, intertwined with the ship, not fully claimed, not fully free. A reminder that some encounters leave marks that no distance, no time can erase. Somewhere in the void, the black ship waited, patient, alive, and eternal. And Lyra Voss understood, with both dread and awe, that the story was far from over. The Aurora Dawn powered up its engines, breaking the silent grip of the black ship's gravitational pull, leaving behind a drifting shadow against the canvas of dying stars. The crew huddled in silence, each lost in thought, haunted by the glimpses they had seen, forever changed. And as the last echoes faded into the void, Lyra whispered to herself, a quiet vow against the cosmic darkness. "We will return if we must, and next time, we will be ready." The void swallowed the black ship once more, silent, patient, and aware, carrying with it the echoes of all who had entered and the faint tether of one defiant human who had dared to face it and live.